610, big ways, baby. Ugh. Were you following the saga of my package
No.
that started in Louisville, North Carolina, near Clemens, goes to Greensboro, goes back to Louisville, back to Greensboro.
Is this
We had a
for
little.
the postal service? The
It's the
postal
postal
service?
service. Yeah, it's the postal service. And I'm
I
not
know.
bitching, but it happened, and I got it, and it was just so vital because I needed my fifth pair of sweatpants. Very important, very key.
That's
Ugh.
more exciting than we had to send documents to Jane's sister who lives in that really obscure place called Westchester County, New York. It's so far out
Jeez,
there,
where the fuck is that?
and so we used the postal service express mail. It's supposed to be there by 6 o'clock in the evening the next day. You got all day the next day. It didn't get there till 24 hours later, so it took 2 days. That's America.
Ain't
So
that
next time,
America?
next time, so we had to send something a few days later. We used FedEx, so it was $5 more. Okay, but of course the FedEx truck exploded. It was hit, and so
It happens. Holy shit! Breadman's is at Eastgate. I didn't know that. Oh, there you go.
let me just make sure.
We were just there a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, "Well, that's used to where Breadman's used to be, and it's not there." Well, I'm glad they moved because it was very average, cheap food for college students.
Okay, hey, it looks like we're here and we're ready to go.
It is.
All right, it's the Brad and Britt cast, our final one for this week, and I missed the anniversary yesterday. The anniversary of the death of John Lennon. I always note that, and I always post that Associated Press original sheet that was that was in at the radio station where I was on at the time, and you know what? I'll put it up there. I'll put it up on our Facebook page.
Were you actually on the air at the time when they announced it?
Yeah.
You were actually on the air.
Yeah, because I had the highly valued 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift.
Uh-huh.
We call it the glamour shift, right? And so I think the first word of that was about 11:20 or something like that. So
right. So did you break into programming and announce it, or what? How did that work?
That was programming.
Oh, that was it.
Break it. That was programming. There wasn't anything to break into.
So the news department.
Wait a minute. Excuse me. The Barry Manilow record is over. Now we're going to talk about. Holy shit.
Well, again,
this on a station when fucking Barry Manilow would put out a new song. That was the biggest thing down the hall. Oh shit, Barry! Hey, Weekend in New England. Holy shit! It's changed the game. Barry Manilow.
Well, the guy had the Midas touch there for a while. Everything he touched turned to absolute gold there for a minute. So, this is a real like radio station with a real news department with people that would like have news and offer breaking news and shit like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to imagine such a thing.
Well, actually, to be fair,
okay,
even in 1980, 81, right? 1980, it happened. There was no news person there at that hour. It was just me. It was just me. So
you had
that's not important.
You had the awesome responsibility of telling the greater Central Ohio area that John Lennon had been shot to death.
Yeah, because they were all listening to me. None of them were watching Monday Night Football. None of them heard it from Cosell.
I don't think it was a very. I don't think that was a very popular program back during that time. I don't think many people watched Monday Night Football.
Nobody knew it was even on yet. Right, because there wasn't cable yet. Nobody was using cable. There was cable, but hardly anybody had it. So
it certainly wasn't one of the most watched shows on television year after year.
No, but the only interesting part of this that I can add that no one that my side that with me was that 2 days later after the story was, where it was 2 or 3 days later, I had on the air with me to talk to the ABC radio newsman at the time, who was on duty at that hour. And he was one of the best. He's no longer with us. His name was Tim O'Donnell.
Okay.
And Tim was just, they don't make him like him anymore. He's one of those guys.
Unbelievable.
And he was there, and that was just, I wish I had some recordings of that night. I don't. I have lots of recordings from that era, but nothing that matters. Okay. but I only bring it up because we just got through now the first of the three Beatles portions, and it is impossible to stop watching them. We did break when we got to the end of that was a natural break point at the end of the episode, which is, first episode is where George walks out in a huff.
Yeah, he's
Little
done.
George, oh, they won't sing my songs. They won't pay attention to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite like that, but
well, as it turns out, if they shit on you for 7 years, you start taking it personal. I mean, it's kind of a thing that happens.
They shit on it. He got nothing out of that. So far, a third of the way through, this is all I can say. They were 10 times better than people who trashed them thought they were.
That's the funny part.
My late father-in-law, Jane's father,
right,
who died about 12 years ago. So probably in 1965, he was already 45 years old,
right,
and he'd grown up in Europe and was a classical music guy. And he was one of those at the beginning, of course, just could the Beatles, fuck it, forget it. You cannot have WABC on in the car. Not when I'm in. All right, it was one of those. But later, but fairly quickly, I understand, I'm told, he got it. He understood how good a musicians they were. Which, of course, I'm sure that's representative of a lot of people who were that age. But when you see how they work together, it's just astounding. It's also astounding at how versatile every one of them was. Every one of them. I don't know. Ringo doesn't do much besides play the drums, but he probably did play other instruments.
Sure.
But the other three, oh my God. And Paul McCartney could have been a concert pianist if he wanted to. He's that good. And he's a great drummer and everything of that sort. But their ability to sit there and riff on not only songs that were from their catalog, but every song from the 50s and 60s you could ever think of. And that, of course, their influences were all of these greats who came before them. And you see it when they're just goofing around, when they're putting their music together. And the first Get Back is being formulated right now. And when you hear how ridiculous it sounds, when
it's so stupid
with words, and they're just it's ridiculous.
There's a clip that's going around, and 30 seconds in, McCartney's just strumming. He's got nothing. 45 seconds later, he's got a fucking hit song. Just fucking around. Just 45 seconds later, he's got like a huge, massive worldwide hit. It's nobody can do that. I mean, nobody ever did that. Nobody's been able to do it since. It's just unreal. And also, when you're seeing them collaborate this time, this is at a time when they were like not at their top of being. They were not super happy with each other, but they were still able to get together, put a lot of stuff aside, and jam, and do some great shit.
I think even what you just said is kind of wrong. That it wasn't a question of whether they were happy with each other. It's their ability to spend hours and hours, day after day together, really having a good time, really enjoying each other's company. There was no tension. And I think the narrative of all these years that, by 1967, they couldn't stand each other. And they just showed up and played a few songs and then got out of it. That's just not true.
They hated each other.
Not true. And then when you add in the fact that none of these guys were even 30 years old.
Yeah.
28 and 29, and George was 26 in 1969. You can't believe it. It
Well,
just
yeah, you're 28, 29
really
years
is
old.
off the charts.
You're
Yeah.
28, 29 years old, 30 years old, and you're breaking up the biggest band there ever was. Oh, by the way, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? That's like, yeah, what's
but
your
it
next
wasn't.
chapter?
Well, but they had been together
Right.
for all those years before that, and John and Paul and George, going back into the 1950s. So yeah, they were 26, 28, 29, but they were old soul 20s, late 20s kind of guys for the purposes of a band. But it's just, I can't wait to watch the next two parts of it. And yes, on the 13th, my $2.99 Disney Plus subscription. It goes Cinderella, and the clock strikes midnight. I got to pay $7.99, I think, for the next. Okay, I'll do it. All right, I'll do it if we can't get it all watched.
Damn you, Peter Jackson! How did you get me?
And you know what? I'm gonna just to spite them. I'm gonna start watching all these Marvel movies that I've never seen, just to get back at them. Right? That'll show them.
That really is the best payback. I think you've nailed it. That's gonna piss them off really bad.
Yeah. I'm gonna get so much use out of that Disney Plus subscription that I've hardly ever used.
I'll be watching
Simpsons. I'm gonna watch Simpsons without commercials until my ass falls off. That's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to be watching What If in that Marvel universe, and my eyes are going to glaze over there to call a fucking ambulance. It's going to be unreal, the shit that I would. That'll teach you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Things that are too stupid to talk about. Let's talk about the burning of the Christmas tree in New York City. This has been quite the cause celeb over the past 24 to 48 hours, just outside of Fox headquarters. The Christmas tree, which was actually just a metal skeleton with some branches attached to it, was burned. And I think you have further on this story.
Well, can I tell you, until 10 minutes ago, I aggressively did not pay attention to this story. I aggressively did not read details of it because I am aggressively not interested in anything that Fox would self-generate to turn into whatever they want to turn it into, which is apparently the top story. So in my mind, the fact that apparently they're going 24/7 on this is the worst crime, just off the top of my head, which was worse? Is this guy some homeless junkie or something like that? Is that what he was? He just did it, right?
I think, yeah.
Right, that's what the cops are saying. He's just some idiot. And of course, Fox turns it into, it may as well have been The Squad with Nancy Pelosi, with Bill and Hillary Clinton.
What truly happened?
Kerosene.
What happened in Midtown Manhattan was that AOC went up to the manger and stabbed little baby Jesus.
Right.
She repeatedly took a knife, sunk the dagger deep into his heart, and continued to do it for 20 minutes.
Right.
That's what's happened.
So I think you were asking, might have been on Monday or something, what is the excuse now to continue the so-called fake war on Christmas? And the answer is there is none. Now they've got one, right? This is the war on Christmas. Absolutely. Look at it. And of course, this is bullshit. It's just beyond bullshit. It probably has turned into, why aren't the Democrats denouncing this, right? That's what they always do. Or media ignores burning of Christmas. This is the Fox playbook. This is perfect for them. In fact, I'll go so far. This is probably a false flag. They probably burned their own Christmas tree.
They did their own. Yeah.
They probably hired a crisis actor, one of the people who originally clapped for Trump when he came down the escalator at Trump Tower 6 years ago to announce he was running for president. They would do that. They would do that. So they're, if I asked anybody who's a Fox fan, which is worse, the death of George Floyd or the burning of the Christmas tree?
No. The storming of the Capitol on January 6th, or the burning of this Christmas tree. Right. That's your side-by-side comparison. They care so much more about this, and they're so much more upset about this than they are the actual Capitol being overrun by thugs who were trying to murder people.
Right. You do get to play whataboutism on this.
Sure.
So sometimes the whataboutism actually leaks over onto the Fox coverage. They just can't stop it. There's no way to stop it. So you'll hear at the end the famous gotta go to the bathroom, see you later, segment's over trick that they try. So this is midday anchor Harris. Where'd you get those eyelashes, Faulkner?
Lovely girl.
Some woman who is not named here, who's a Fox right-wing sympathizer hack, and then Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein, who is one of the regular Democrats that they have on always. So he's apparently not threatening enough that they don't ban him, and they got to have some for plausible deniability. So
he's
they're
not
talking about this.
These are called, by the way, in wrestling, these are called enhancement talents. I don't know if you know about this. They would have them on Saturday morning when your world champion would wrestle the guy'd get about 2 pieces of offense in, and then the champ would beat him in 4 minutes. These were called enhancement talents, also known as jobbers. That's what that guy is.
All right, so watch when Goodstein dares to go there. Watch what happens. And first, I think this is the lady speaking. Here we go.
Out there, Cassie.
Yeah, I love to see that. That's the spirit of Christmas. That's the spirit of the American people. And I would note in New York, where they just elected a tough on crime mayor, that's also the spirit of where voters want to be. So if
I think she's referring to the fact they've already replaced what was there. Okay?
Exactly.
these elected officials want to keep releasing people and want to keep dismissing crime statistics as just one-offs, they will pay for it at the polls.
Where are we right now where Christmas gets under attack? The trees, everything. I mean, and it's such a signal, Richard, because if they'll set that tree on fire, imagine what they'll do to human beings who are walking around.
Well, so that's a parable, an analogy, an equivalent thing to actual crime. Okay, right. Okay.
We're finding out the stabbings are off the charts in New York.
To your point. Yeah, and to your point, if Fox would put as much energy into decrying the anti-vaxxers, we now have 800,000 people dead and one tree that's destroyed.
All right. So
cut his mic. Cut his mic.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready? Here it comes.
I think there's kind of a lack of kind of symmetry
First
there.
of all,
and
you
I
don't
think
have your
that's where
facts
the energy
straight.
should go.
Because many of us talk about being vaxxed, boosted, all of
And
that
many don't.
within the realm of reporting on.
That's right. When you look for the spot on your dial that's the most supportive of everyone getting vaccinated, no questions asked, just get it done.
Fox News.
There are no more pro-vax plays.
Cut his mic. Cut his mic.
Entire subject. We also talk about natural antibodies. We talk about
Jesus.
all of it. So if you want to point a finger and call somebody anti-vax, you got to get your facts straight.
Yeah, that's so wrong.
Richard, I've known you a long time, and it's not personal, but you made it personal. Good to see you both. Cassie, thank you for the debate.
What do you think?
That's our show. That's good. Cut his mic. Cut his mic. We got to get out of there.
That's it.
Get out of this segment.
Better than that. Yeah.
Well, she's almost playing the fake Chinese wall at Fox News. Well, yeah, during the day we're playing it straight, but at night these crazoids go off, and they're the ones that are like, and that's bullshit. Everybody knows it's bullshit. That you can't do that.
Well, but I guess within the realm of what you would be expected to do if you've got the gig on Fox in the middle of the day, you are defending the fort. You are just making sure that any attempt of critical thinking or of trying to put things in perspective does not bleed through, because if it does, then you might start getting people questioning, why am I watching this shit to begin with? It could happen that way. Speaking of why am I watching, I will say today, Thursday, is the last day for Brian Williams doing the 11 o'clock hour on MSDNC.
Hey, Brad, do you know what CNN stands for?
What?
It's the Clinton News Network.
Oh, good one, sir. You really got me with that one. Good one, sir. So this is his last show, and I'm sticking with the Brian Williams is 62. He's not old enough to really just walk away and not do anything.
Nope.
Doing a podcast, which is what he's already talking about, which he's already done a bunch of episodes, and it's not it's not a newsy thing. It's some podcast about all these moments in recent American history where TV was there and covered it. You know, Kennedy assassination, blah blah. I'm Brian. Okay, that's just generic pap. That shit. That's not Brian Williams. Can have any idiot doing that. It's not. But okay, he's too young to leave television forever. He's too young to be an emeritus. He's too young to be a Britt Hume, which is pretend you retire and then you're on more than you were when you actually were there. I still will stick with the 9 o'clock Chris Cuomo vacated hour on CNN gig for Brian Williams to get in there and do what he does best on that network at that time. It still makes sense to me. I'm sticking with it. I have no evidence that it's going to happen, no evidence of talks, but boy, you'll notice there's a very suspicious amount of quiet surrounding where he goes from here. They're just printing the standard line that his contract has run out and he has decided not to attempt to renew it, and he's going to walk away after 28 years or whatever it is at NBC. That's too easy. That's too pat. That's not how the world works. The world always wants to know, what are you doing next, unless
Correct.
you're 104 years old
Correct.
and you retire. So that's the natural landing place for him. You're going to buy me a cookie. You're going to buy me a cookie if that turns out to be true.
I'm not fighting it. I think it'd be a great landing spot for him. I think they could do a whole lot worse than that. I know Jake Tapper has already said he doesn't want it, allegedly. I don't know. But I think it'd be wonderful. I want to go back to your previous story about the bullshit on the tree, and I want you to hang on with both hands.
Breaking news on the tree.
Well, I want you thought that the Murdoch empire had done the ultimate backflip that you just heard, but no. Get ready for this New York Post editorial, Brad. The burning News Corp Christmas tree is a perfectly grim last taste of de Blasio's in New York City.
Oh,
this is the result of what Bill de Blasio has wrought on the Big Apple. And this is completely and totally his fault that he would allow such a great symbol of, well, paganism, really, but Christianity to be burned to the ground and not give a shit, Brad. Christians have it bad in New York. Jews have it bad in New York. Muslims have it bad in New York. Everybody's got it bad in New York. So good riddance, Bill de Blasio. Do you like that?
Well, look, I would expect anything less from the New York Post, of course. Yep. But see, that's the point. That's the point here. And we can play equivalence and whataboutism here. One Christmas tree burns, and it's symbolic of the rot of the entire country, anywhere where Democrats are mayors or governors or anything, because Democrats love crime to run rampant in cities, and they just don't believe in law enforcement. But what happened on January 6th at the Capitol, that was just a walk in the park. That was just a little day off for some people, and they went for a visit. And by the way, on my Facebook page, on this day before our little get together is up there, I posted a bunch of pictures from January 6th because I wanted to make sure that I had this right. And I Googled Rotunda Bob Dole January 6th. Okay. And just to make sure, yes, Bob Dole right now, dead, is lying in state in the rotunda of the Capitol. That is the same place that on January 6th, these people, these hooligans, these thugs, these racists, these white supremacist nutcases, these Trumpers trashed the United States Capitol. Bob Dole is there today. Do you want a greater juxtaposition? Do you want a greater contrast into what this country was and could be and stood for, whether you agreed politically with Bob Dole or not, versus what happened on January 6th in the same location? That's my story.
That's interesting.
That's my story. To see, it's just horrible. It's just horrible.
I was watching CNN before we started, and there was a deputy press communication person that was talking to the anchor. And the anchor goes, well, there's been some good economic news lately. The price of gas is going down. Unemployment is getting better. The stock market's doing well. The supply chain stuff is slowly getting worked out. But the president's approval numbers are still pretty shitty. And she was saying, does it mean that you guys are not able to get the message out very well, or exactly what it is? And I don't know exactly what the answer is particularly about that. I think those are the things that she was talking about are leading indicators, and it takes a while for the families on the ground to start feeling the good news, right?
Well, in terms of the price of gas, and I saw this headline. This was a totally standard issue Daily Mail headline. Don Lemon under fire for bragging about Biden economy because the price of gas went down 5%. Or 5 cents, whatever it was. And of course, if you recall, in the last few months, every week, if the price of gas went up at all, it was the end of the world. The price of gas is a nickel more than it was last, and that's the end of the world. So this is the perfect example of, yes, on the way up, it sucks. But on the way down, well, that's good. Okay. Next thing, I just fill up my tank. It's a little less. And you don't get credit for that. That's just the way of the world. It sucks. It's not fair, but that's just the way it is. Yeah.
I remember us being on the radio 2004, 2005, and it was during the Bush reelection. And there was a lot of, the gas prices were pretty high. And we would get, this is before social media, so they couldn't tag you on stuff. We would get, you may remember this, these emails nonstop telling us, oh, people bitch about gas prices, but do you know how much printer ink is per gallon? Do you know how much Listerine is per? Do you remember that shit?
Oh, of course.
Do you remember that bullshit that they would send out to try to cover up for a Republican president? And then the other thing that they would try to do is, and I haven't heard this yet because I know these other ones were successful. On Tuesday the 15th, nobody buy gas. We're going to fuck them up. We're going to show these guys. And I'm not hearing anybody do that. I'm not hearing any ass. At least I don't know if that's because people have gotten smarter. I don't think they've gotten smarter. I don't believe they have. I think there's probably some assholes out there that believe that they could really stick it to Joe Biden by not buying gas, for one day. These were things that used to happen, right? I'm not imagining this.
No, you're not. You're not imagining that. You have been imagining that the Oakland, LA, Las Vegas Raiders are actually going to be a competitive team once more in your lifetime. You are delusional in that area. But
the AFC's wide open this year, and you know it, pal.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't know if they're able to tell their story very well, or if you do tell the story very well, then all of a sudden you're being an asshole and you're being insensitive toward people that are still suffering. And I don't know. And this is a Bloomberg story that I'm highlighting here, so you can take that for what it is. I understand that people are still hurting, but I also understand that people are having trouble filling jobs, and there are jobs that are available for folks, and that some of them are pretty good. They've had to hike up some of the benefits and some of the pay, which has been a problem with inflation. But at the same time, it ain't that bad. It seems like that last year of Trump, when you got down to about this time in 2020, things were pretty shitty.
Britt, there's no profit in good news.
Well,
it's very simple.
That's fair enough.
There is no profit in good news, and no one cares, because good news is just supposed to be news. It's just supposed to be that way. With that in mind, as we speak, what you just brought about sets up the fact that they voted for the union at Starbucks in Buffalo. It's now, of course, I don't trust the vote. Who's counting the vote? Did they allow any ballots to come in after the polls closed? Why are we going to trust that vote? So Starbucks is unilaterally going to disallow that election and get the result that they want, because that's not. I made. Do
you know what I'm thinking about right now? I'm thinking about the Big Fat Ed character and how the Big Fat Ed character would talk about busting people's knees and shit in union situations. When I used to do the Big Fat Ed character, which was an homage to Ed Schultz, he would come on our various shows.
We lost him.
And I would talk to Ed Schultz about being a union guy going in and breaking people's knees and shit. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
I think the union thing is going to be for a new generation, right? For a new generation of people that don't know that they're supposed to hate unions and that unions are communist, anathema to America, and contrast to everything our founding fathers wanted. There's a new generation of people that are going, I don't think this is such a horrible idea that we unionize and have some control over our own futures. So I would watch this as a trend in the coming years.
This is a pretty big deal because, and I don't know, again, I'm not read in well enough to all the details here, but this must be Starbucks owned stores, and I think they do franchise. They don't own every Starbucks.
Right.
So that may have some effect on how Starbucks employees across the country either decide to do the same thing or just sit back. And maybe it's possible that this is an isolated circumstance and it's a, how should we say it, a teachable moment for Starbucks management that they need to provide better benefits and stop cutting them back, because that was the charge. That was the reason that these workers said, we think we need a union, because Starbucks, which was actually famous for being one of the better places to work in this space. You know, they were up there with Costco, and other places in terms of providing benefits. And apparently over the last few years, some of them have been sliced back and cut back just a little bit. And that was enough. And I thought, and I don't know who said this, but the interesting part, well, it's just fucking Starbucks, okay? It's a coffee joint. Well, first of all, it's not just that. I mean, this is a gigantic.
It's just one bus in Montgomery. I mean, come on. It's
multi. Yeah, I mean, they're a massive, massive presence and a massive company. And yes, I own the shares. And I have not looked. Would you like me to look in real time? Would you like me to look in real time to see if the shares have reacted to this vote one way or the other? I'm going to guess it doesn't move them all that much because it might have been expected. Let's see.
The National Labor Relations Board on Tuesday rejected an appeal by Starbucks to stop the counting of ballots. The company had argued that the election should include all 20 of the region's stores, which is, I don't know, kind of stupid, which effectively would have required the union to sway a much larger pool of workers. Labor Board members wrote in their unanimous ruling that Starbucks had not met the burden of proof needed to override the NLRB's premise that a proposed bargaining unit consisting of one workplace is legitimate, Brad.
Yeah. All right.
How's the stock doing?
Here's the answer. The answer is not much movement at all, really.
Oh, no.
Yeah, 1/3 of 1%, 32 cents on 160. So
and again, I hate to pollute the, there's so many companies that use unions and are unionized that do very well and are very.
Of course. Well, right. The premise, see, it would have been a false premise to think, and I did not look at this until now. I think it would have been really stupid to think, oh, if they vote the union in upstate New York, that's the end of the company. There go the profits. They're out of business. It's not going to work that way. It would never work that way. And this will be to the benefit of the workers and good for them. But the equivalency here of Starbucks being the start maybe of something like this is you have to kind of accept, and I do, that service industries like this, which can provide a person a way to make a legitimate living, are maybe today what the auto plant was 50 years ago for your father or your grandfather, because there aren't quite as many jobs in auto plants anymore. And there aren't any textile jobs to speak of in terms of the numbers now compared to back then. So what do? We travel, we eat, we do all these kinds of things, and we need people to work at them. The owners need people to work at them. And if the pandemic has changed anything, it's changed this concept of who really matters. Black lives matter, workers' lives matter. And if you're going to call people, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was, the most valuable people in the most valuable jobs weren't just doctors and nurses and ambulance drivers. They were grocery store workers. They were people that worked in a lot of service areas.
Fast food workers.
Those are jobs you might have thought they didn't matter. Guess what? They do matter.
They do matter.
They do matter. And the companies use the pandemic, the smart ones. And by the way, one of those smart ones is Starbucks, because they did adjust during the pandemic when they were closed and they couldn't have anybody inside. You know, their drive-through and their online presence exploded. They worked on it hard because they knew times weren't going to be that way forever. Now you can go back into a Starbucks and so I think they're well positioned. And so, you know, to me, the unionization of workers at a place like is kind of an evolution in American business that needs to not be fought. And it appears, and again, I didn't read enough about this. It appears that in upstate New York, where this went on, the same kind of disgusting hardball beneath the belt tactics that have been used primarily in the South to fend off unions were not so readily used up there to tell the worker, if you vote yes, your house is going to burn, or all the shit that they do in the South when they try to knock out the unions, like they just did in Alabama. Was it Alabama at the Amazon where they got that done? So the stars were lined up. You see what I said? See stars, Starbucks. See on their cup. Yeah,
nicely played.
And that's what I meant by that.
Well, you have a segment of the population, particularly when it comes to fast food, that was always dependent on treating people like shit. I mean, literally, if you read the book Fast Food Nation, you pay somebody $8 or $10 an hour, and then you just use them up until they're dust. Then they quit.
Right.
At McDonald's, they go over to Wendy's. You do the same thing, lather, rinse, repeat. They quit over at Wendy's. They go to Burger King. So these were workers that in the middle of a pandemic, were told to go to work for $8 or $10 and then get yelled at, spit at, and screamed at and still be treated like shit. And then finally management go, okay, $12. $12, we'll do it for 12. And then they just continue to treat these workers like shit. So after a while, people kind of get tired of that. So I think this is really a significant part of the labor movement in this country. And again, I hope that there's a new generation that ain't going to have it. They're not going to take it. They're not going to be told that they're communists and America haters and all this other bullshit if they carry around a union card. Some of these companies are really smart, though, but they only pay you enough so that if you have to pay union dues, it kind of puts a pinch on you. They got that going for them, and that's another great thing that they do. But I personally hope that a lot of people see a lot more of the wisdom of forming a union and have some sort of say in your job. Basically, they've been told for years, these are minimum wage jobs and you don't matter. A segment of our society has been told that for a long time. And now, during the pandemic, we've heard people raising hell because Burger King was closed, Taco Bell was closed, McDonald's was closed. Wait a minute, I thought we were unimportant. I thought we were just not a really big part of, and it turns out they're a big part of our economy. All right, they're a big part of our economy. They're not building planes, they're not engineering buildings, but they're part of what makes our economy work. And I hope these people have understood what their value is, and I hope we see a lot more unionization, more people who put some stock in having some control over their occupation and their work as time goes forward.
Yeah, I mean, we will see when the history is written, as they like to say, whether this was an important pivot point in the unionization of workers, which has been going down for decades. Thank you, Ronald Reagan, for getting this all started, for getting that ball rolling.
He did.
The great Ronald Reagan. When you talk about the great Ronald Reagan, remember, that's part of his legacy.
And it's also very it's very odd when you see the decline of the unions and union influence, and then you just see the disparity between the rich and the middle class, and you see it's funny how that kind of coincides, isn't it? It's funny how those two things in the same era kind of coincide.
Right.
After World War II and up until about 1970, mid-70s, we all kind of grew together. The rich did get richer, but the middle class did a little bit better. Folks on the bottom did a little bit better. And then all of a sudden, mid-70s, early 80s, a lot of folks went, oh, fuck that. We're going to get real rich and keep these motherfuckers down. And that's what's been happening now for 40 years.
Right. With that in mind, and again, we're probably going to be talking off the top of our head a little bit about this, but a couple of days ago, if you're in North Carolina, you probably know this news. If you're out across the country, I'm amazed that this story didn't get more play because it seems when something equivalent would happen with another company in another state or another southern state, it was a big business story. But for forever, North Carolina has been the one southern state. It's the only one that hasn't had a major automobile plant or anything associated with manufacturing of that size. You know, they're in Alabama, they're in Georgia, Tennessee. They're everywhere. They built, all the cars are built in the South now that aren't still being built in Detroit, and not that many are. And there are plants in Indiana, and they build them everywhere, but not North Carolina. And finally, a couple days ago, after decades of going to the mat, our great our great Democrat. See what I did there? There it is. The Toyota will spend $1.3 billion to build a car battery plant in North Carolina, not too far from where we're speaking, pretty close by.
Yeah.
They've bought and kept this land kind of fallow for years, just waiting, just hoping. And it's now going to happen. And this is where Toyota is going to be making batteries. And those are going to be clearly good paying jobs. I assume, at least right now, that those are not going to be UAW jobs. There are no new car jobs or associated with car jobs, I think, that are union jobs, or they might have thought about building this plant, further north. I don't know whether that applies across the board, but it kind of seems to. But that being said, these will be good paying jobs, union or no union, and they're valuable, and it is a big deal. It's a real big deal. And that added in with a story today that is the headline where we are, that this company that wants to build supersonic airplanes, bring back the old faster than sound Concorde style quickie planes, they may set up around here and build a plant here to make those here. Now, of course, we're decades away from seeing those products if they ever get. It takes forever, right? And there's no permission to fly faster than the speed of sound in the United States anyway. Remember, when the Concorde flew, it could only fly over the ocean from the East Coast to Europe, or
at full speed, at its full speed.
Right. And I don't even know. I don't even think they used them to go to Asia. I don't remember whether they did or not from LA. But I don't know whether it's this company or another company is working on technology to enable supersonic flight over land without causing these sonic booms, which of course, wrecks everything and screws everything up. They think they can come up with a shape of one of these planes that will not cause the sonic booms. And hey, if they do it, everything might change, and we'll see. But I guess that's the hope of the future. That's what's ahead.
Well, it's just very weird for people to be talking about our city instead of Raleigh and Charlotte all the time. We have two good pieces of economic news coming out of the middle of the state. Weird.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, you just launched it. Here we go. You ready for a stupid fucking list?
This will finish us up on a Thursday.
Let's finish with a stupid fucking list, because we hate lists, which means we love lists. Here we go. America's least and most fun cities. That's right. Where's the most fun you can have anywhere? So this annoying company, Wallet Hub, looked at no fewer than 65 different metrics to come up with the most fun cities in America. And you will not be shocked. At the top is Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, and the entertainment capital of the world.
Las Vegas. Top 10 most fun cities: Las Vegas, Orlando, Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, San Francisco, Austin, Chicago, Honolulu, and New York. Least fun cities. In order from the 10th worst to the worst: Rancho Cucamonga, California. Bridgeport, Connecticut, South Burlington, Vermont.
Cucamonga.
Yonkers, New York. Fontana, California. Moreno Valley, California. Ontario, California. Oxnard, California. Brownsville, Texas. And something called Pearl City in Hawaii. You're asking, where do the North Carolina cities come out? And before I tell you where they came out, I looked and I made sure that I had this right. Asheville, North Carolina is not on this list. It's neither. It's not. It's 182 fucking places, and they didn't put.
It's one of the hottest cities in America over the past 20 years, but it ain't on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it fun in Asheville? Oh, that's pretty fun.
Nah, it sucks.
It's fairly fun.
It's terrible.
Yeah. I mean, look, Boise is 64. Wichita is 70. El Paso 76. Greensboro is number 90.
Yeah.
Number 90. Durham 71, moving up the list. Charlotte 55, and of course, as always, Raleigh kicks our ass, and they're at number 27. Below us, Greensboro at 90, Winston-Salem 96, Fayetteville 117. But it's not. There is no Asheville on here, and it's not because Asheville is too small.
Because there's some smaller places. Yeah, I think Pearl, Hawaii is going to be smaller.
Yeah, Columbia, Maryland, please.
Yeah, fuck you.
Pembroke Pines, Florida. Fuck.
Boo.
What the hell's so fun about Pembroke Pines?
Now, I know that Greensboro's number 90. Did they factor in the new 7-Eleven that just popped up by my house? I think that needs to go in there. I think we can go to 85 or 80 if they put that in.
Well, now, is that a 7-Eleven or a Sheetz? If it's a Sheetz, I think you're going to get some juice out of that one.
Here's where things get really crazy. There's a Sheetz right across from the new 7-Eleven. I mean, come on, people. Take that, Vegas, in your face.
Lowest average beer price. Here's an important one.
Oh, Jesus.
Milwaukee does have the lowest average beer price. Well, that's true because there's no transportation costs because all beer is made in Milwaukee these days, right?
There's no beer made in Milwaukee these days.
Albuquerque, Durham is tied for 5th place.
Durham's a really good beer town. If you're into that, they've got some real good beer there. It's not as good as Asheville, by the way. Asheville kicks its ass.
Right, but this of course reconfirms, and it really should be in the too stupid to talk about category because there's no Asheville in there, don't you think? Oh, it really should be.
How did you miss that? What, Austin? Did Austin make the list? No, I don't know. What are you talking about? What's this Austin city we heard? Portland? Yeah. I don't even know what that is. What is Portland?
There. All right. Did we leave anything else on the?
Holy Lord, that's all I got.
Yeah.
We haven't discussed this, but my proposed schedule is we do all of our shows next week, take the next week off, and then resume the Tuesday after Christmas, if that's going to work for you, which is the 28th.
You know what? I don't negotiate in public on TV. That is not a good way to do
this. This is how organized that we are. We don't have anything to hide from our fans. We just don't. We don't care.
No.
We come as you are. This is what we're doing. You guys have kept us alive for all these years. We're fine.
Yeah. Hey, you see, they want to drag Trump in for a deposition in the state of New York.
I did see that. Like that. Holy shit! Drag his fat ass in there.
Right.
I don't have anything. This is a witch hunt.
They've already had Eric in there, and of course, nobody could understand a word he said, so they need somebody else. Not the most. All right. So next week is a regular week.
Regular week, and then the week after we take the week off, and then we resume the following Tuesday, 28th, 29th, 30th.
All right. I need you to put that in writing. I need a text. I need an email.
I'll get your agent.
Send me a hard copy.
I'll get your agent involved. We'll go ahead and work with it, get with your people, and get everything done.
Exactly. All right. So we will be back here, same bat channel on Monday. Okay.
Here we go.